Hey everyone, this is Tom from MonTac here doing the weekly MonTac Matchup on July 30th, and today we have the former champion himself, the Divine Commander, Misfire, joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing alright, thank you for asking.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Real quick, we're going to look at some of these matches. You know, you've got a bunch of really interesting matches this weekend, a lot of really close ones to call. It's really a tough one right off the bat. Right off the bat, we've got Squishy taking on Apocalyptic, the title match. It's very unusual for that to be the very first match of the weekend, but it is in this case. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you're really looking at this matchup?
The first thing that really comes to my mind is that, well, Squishy is the best Sunwalker player that I know of. I've never beaten him in all my time, and Apocalyptic, well, I've had some history with him too. I expect this match to really come down to the wire.
Yes, the interesting thing about this match is that they'll both, since like you said, they are both going to be using Sunwalkers, or at least, as far as I'm aware, they should most likely be using Sunwalkers. But the interesting thing is how Apocalyptic uses those Steel Edge involved in his Sunwalkers, which will either be his hindrance or his booster. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. Do you have any predictions so far regarding this?
Well, if you're gonna say that Steel Edge is involved, then I really hope Apocalyptic isn't propping up to use those Blitz Magnums pretty early, because that could get him Gemini'd. And in a game like this, when it comes down to the wire, you need every single resource you can get. Losing potentially 3 or more of those resources to an Impervious Gemini could very well spell the end for you in this type of matchup.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw that in your matchup with Badger. Right after Badger took down the likes of Rich Potato and SM Robo, he goes on to get Gemini'd within seconds of his first tile defense, and from there it was just a downhill slog. He still did very well to put in a close match, but overall it was very hard, and I haven't really seen him in a title match get Gemini'd, with an opponent still at full power and be able to turn it around. So it's really going to be interesting to see how they circumvent that. Yeah, I'm not sure how that one's going to go, but it's really going to come down to whether that Steel Edge is a pro or a con. We'll leave your match for the end of the video. Yeah, so the next one you're not going to know, but of course we've got Tamoose taking on Dan B. This one, for anyone who doesn't know, they're both up-and-comers. They both had a lot of really close matches with top-tier players. Dan B close with Apocalyptic. Tamoose is really close with Charging Badger, barely losing out to him. This is going to be really a match to decide who is going to be the rookie and potentially even the dark horse for this month. Since they both they're both starting to get on the rise. Dan B has only lost once ever, and Tamoose is really starting to do well with his new deck. That's definitely an interesting one. I know you don't have much experience with them. I think you've only had one practice with Tamoose as well, haven't you?
Yeah, that's the only time I actually did play against Tamoose, and he was still relatively new at the time. Don't get me wrong, he was a very solid player even back then, but yeah, I was testing out a new deck, and it really didn't go so well for Tamoose. No offense to the guy.
Well, that was peak Misfire. But yeah, no, that's definitely understandable. The next match we got was Tailsweet taking on Doozy. This is another interesting one. The winner potentially making top 8 this week. These guys, I don't know if they've played before. I feel like they may have once before, but it is quite an unusual matchup as well. This is going to be very interesting setup for the upcoming month, because now this will count as part of the August competition. I know you've taken on Tailsweet. I don't think you've taken on Doozy in this one at this stage. But yeah, it should be very interesting. Tailsweet is using Terosians, and Doozy might use Bandits for all we know. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I guess if you had to make picks out of the two, considering you would have seen them around, if you had to make picks, what would you do?
Honestly, I remember playing Tailsweet in the past a little, kind of. I don't really remember much of that matchup, but with the way you're describing it, and seeing Doozy on the MonTac Discord server, be sure to put a link in the description, I think Doozy will come in this with a deck no one has ever seen, and it somehow ends up working out.
Ooh, interesting. So you think Doozy takes the Tail Sweep matchup, and then who do you think takes the Tamoose Danby matchup?
For Tamoose Danby, with the way you mentioned it, Danby only losing once up to this point, it's gonna be hard to say that that streak will continue.
It's more or less a battle of a player who has done incredibly well in Danby, where he's been able to pick up and evolve every single week, versus the experience of Tamoose, who has had a rough past season, but because of that, he's very aware of what not to get hit with. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that turns out. But we can leave that prediction for the end. Let's get to a match you're definitely going to have some thoughts on. We've got Shadow Galaxy Wolf taking on Charging Badger. Now this is for the 4th time, so they know each other very well at this stage. Shadow Galaxy Wolf coming off her draw with Weinstein right before that, losing to you in the title match, and then Charging Badger. Both these players have lost to you in this season, and now it looks like they're both going to start coming up towards the ranks, and you'll most likely be meeting them if you get through your match. What do you think of this matchup?
It's definitely going to be a very interesting matchup. Shadow Galaxy Wolf with the Tarosians, Charging Badger with the Sky Soldiers. The two of them know their decks really well, with Badger even playing his deck in set 1 before Starhand was released. So Badger definitely has experience with one of the more obscure decks in MonTac's history. But Shadow Galaxy Wolf definitely knows how to play her Tarosians, unless she bricks. The two of them have made The two of them have made mistakes that end up costing them, but in this matchup, it's gonna be hard to tell who will get the win. They're very experienced, and as long as they don't make the same mistakes they made to get them in that position that they've ended up getting into against me in the first place, then it'll probably come down to the wire.
Yeah, I definitely agree. They are both. And Badger has evolved past that first mistake with you. I've seen it in his next plays. He's changed up a couple of things, and he's definitely coming in with a lot more, more tactfulness with his plays. Definitely being a lot more careful, because he now has to be aware that even if your opponent isn't a Sunwalker player, they still have that potential Zachariah Gemini combo with the lucky 135. So I definitely expect to see a lot more carefulness displayed from him. And then Wolf is definitely going to be on a rampage for that title shot, because especially with now Squishy as the champion, someone she has practiced with many, many times. You got to feel that she's very confident, and if she can get there, she definitely thinks she can get the win. But yeah, no, that's going to be a very interesting matchup. Very technical. Let's get to your matchup. Now, your matchup's very interesting. This one is definitely, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. You guys have never really intercepted, because you both were always at the top. And Weinstein, obviously more recently at the top, has did incredibly well in that June competition. What are your thoughts thinking of this? Because Weinstein's a bit of an enigma here. He's not really been, you don't really know what he's going to play. He keeps on changing so much.
So Weinstein, honestly, I see him as kind of MonTac's prodigy. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what he brings to the table this week.
Yeah, definitely. He has only 2 losses on his overall record of 9 matches. So he's got a pretty decent record, and the only person that's better in terms of record is actually Danby himself. So the real interesting thing is, will Weinstein be able to, because it's also going to be an experience. It's going to be an experience matter. While you obviously were the champion last week, the real question is going to be like, what kind of changes are you going to be making in this matchup? Because I know you bricked a little bit in the last game, and I'm not even sure what you're coming into this one with. So the real question is going to be, I guess what I'm asking you, Misfire, is have you found a way to change that?
Well, to be honest, going into this week, I'm probably just gonna look more to have fun with the game and just try out some new things. I mean, being
Fair
champion
enough.
was fine and all, but the pressure being up there made me stick to a deck that I've played for the longest time, and now I want to switch it up now that I'm no longer the champ. See what else I can bring to the table.
Yeah, that's completely understandable. And this isn't a must win for you, obviously. Definitely, in the grand scheme of things, we've got the September tournament coming up, which is definitely going to have the most players we've ever had in a tournament showing up. How confident are you in that situation? Because there's going to be, we're thinking about 16 players in this one, which is be about 25% more than the last tournament. What are your thoughts? You think you're feeling pretty confident about the September one, or you're looking at it more of an interesting experiment for the new decks you intend to test?
For September, it's definitely going to be a very interesting time period. But in all honesty, I'm gonna go into it the same way I usually go into ladder matches. Just go in, play the match, see what I get out of it, and go and look forward to the next one. Not really thinking much about winning or losing all that much.
All right, fair enough. Very interesting. And then, so I guess with your matchup with Weinstein, do you think it makes extra time?
I'm gonna go on a limb and say it probably won't last 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. I hope that's a positive 15 minutes. But
You'll know why once it comes up.
Oh boy, I feel like that's giving it away. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's going to be very interesting. I mean, if that works, that is going to be pretty nuts. All right, let's have a look at the top 8 real quick. So the top 8 is very interesting. We've had a lot of changes recently in the top 8. Like I asked Squishy, who do you think is your easiest matchup in the top 8, and then who do you think is your toughest matchup?
Well, the toughest is obvious. It's Squishy.
Okay. His wins over you have been incredibly close. So I know that just because he's got those 3 wins, none of them were dominant. It was just barely getting that final point or health point to edge you out. As much as that is potentially on paper that is your toughest matchup, you got to keep in mind it was incredibly close. And he definitely pushed into the very, very limit. But yeah, so who would be your easiest?
Easiest? Well, gotta be upfront. I'm gonna say it's Potato.
Interesting.
I've said this on the Discord server, but honestly, I find Rich Potato to be pretty arrogant at times. And sometimes his arrogance is his undoing.
Yeah, he definitely suffered a bad loss to Badger last week. Definitely unfortunate. I think unfortunately he does tend to set himself up. Unfortunately, I think he does the best of what he's got, but at the end of the day, when he comes into every match as with that championship attitude, you're gonna fall hard the more you push yourself up. But yeah, no, that's gonna be very interesting. Other than Rich Potato, who else would you say is your easiest if you had to pick someone other than Rich Potato?
And that's where things get interesting. When I look at the top 8, I don't think any of my opponents are gonna be easy going forward. Let's see. I know Zwei definitely has experience with beating some of the top players, so Zwei definitely is not going to be an easy foe. But I don't really see a lot of Dan B at the top tables or facing a lot of the top table players, so I think Dan B could very well be the second easiest of the group, Potato being the easiest, of course.
Yeah, I think if Dan gets some experience, I think he'll be doing really well. I mean, he shot to 3rd really, really quickly, just because of the new season reset. Speaking of new season resets, real quick, what is your thoughts on the season reset that's going to be happening at the end of August?
The season reset at the end of August? Well, that's definitely going to give some time to give people some opportunities to make up for lost ground going into next month. But once next month rolls around, the tournament's set, take that time to climb the ladder. That's really all you can do.
Yeah, fair enough. There's definitely a couple more, obviously there's going to need more information regarding player size, and that will dictate whether there will be any automatic advancements in the tournament. But at this stage, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be an absolute free-for-all. And I'm very keen to see how it goes. Well, thank you very much for doing the weekly MonTac matchup with me, Miss Fire. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. Is there any sort of statements or anything you want to say before we wrap up?
I really don't have anything I want to say at this time because, honestly, everything I've said already is what's on my mind, and that's ultimately what it comes down to when it comes to talks like this. If you want to understand the mind of a champion, you gotta listen to the videos.
True enough. Alright, fantastic. If you don't have anything left that you want to say, then appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to seeing your matchup.
Alright then, I'll see you then.
See you guys.